Hey, what's up, people? I'm back. I've returned. Got some more stuff I need to read to you today. And like I said, I was going to come back and hopefully get some more videos in, tonight since, I'm off, so I got plenty of time to put up, post some more videos. Like I said, I wanted to get away from the book for a while and get in some actual stories that's not in the missing 411 books. These are actual missing, like mysterious disappearance stories, and accounts that's on Wikipedia, and they're short but yet very telling. I figure I would read a couple and possibly get into a story in the book. So what I wanted to do, excuse me, is find the last known story that I read, and I think the last one was that Lawrence Andrews guy. Yeah. Okay. So the next story I'm gonna read will be Joshua Bender. I remember I did say that. So I'm gonna read a couple of stories from Wikipedia, and then I'll get into the book itself, because I said I wanted to do some past and present, stories about people disappearing mysteriously. Okay. Now these stories are set anywhere between the 1800s to 1899. And there's a lot of them. So I'm gonna start off with the earliest one, which is 1803. The man's name was George Bass. Now, it's got some detailed information about him. Like I said, it was a man named George Bass. This was back in like the 1800s. Engraving of Bass from the Naval Pioneers of Australia by Louis Beck and Walter Jeffrey of 1899. Now, he was born on January 30th, 1771 in Sleaford, Lincolnshire. He died after February 5th, 1803, at the age of 32. The nationality of him was British. Occupation: ships surgeon and explorer. Spouses: Elizabeth Waterhouse. Now George Bass, like I said, born in January 3rd, 1771. The early years, it's got a lot of information on him. It's just a matter of being able to go with which one. But the main thing is about him is that he was like I said, he was a British explorer of Australia. He set sail from Sydney for South America and was never heard from again. Now that story is the crazy part, because you set sail on the ocean. The most I could say is that he met. They have these areas in the ocean where it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, but in different areas, and you literally disappear from these places. Your boat sails right into a void that you can't come back from, and you just disappear, just like with Flight 19 and any other ship or plane that's ever passed through the Bermuda Triangle before navigation was ever updated. Because back in those days, they went by the stars, and that's how they was able to find their way, back home. But back in his day, they didn't have all that. They just had the stars, and they had these little like navigational compasses that they had on their ships. But yeah, let's see. 2 voyages of time. Let me see. Early years. Okay. Bass was born on 30 January 1771 at Aswarby, whatever that is. Let me see. Aswarby. Oh yeah, that's a church. He was born at a church. It was called Aswarby in St. Denis Church. It was St. Denis Church. Okay. and that was in Lincolnshire, like I said, where he was born. Okay. Shoot. All right. Okay. Now, like I said, let me see. He was, like I said, he was born in Asbury, a hamlet near Sleaford, Lincolnshire, the son of a tenant farmer, George Bass, and a local beauty named Sarah Nee Newman. His father died in 1777. When Bass was 6, he had attended Boston Grammar School and later trained in medicine at the hospital in Boston, Lincolnshire. At the age of 18, he was accepted in London as a member of the Company of Surgeons. And in 1794, he joined the Royal Navy as a surgeon. He arrived in Sydney in New South Wales on HMS Reliance on September 7th, 1795. Also on the voyage were Matthew Flinders, John Hunter, and Bennelong, and his surgeon's assistant, William Martin. Okay, it's not really too much to tell about him, but it does list information about his final voyage. Okay, what became of Bass is unknown. He set sail on his last voyage in the Venus on February 5th, 1803, and he and his crew were never seen again. His plan was to go to Tahiti and perhaps on to the Spanish colonies on the coast of Chile, to buy provisions and bring them back to Sydney. It has been suspected Bass may also have plans to engage in contraband trade in Chile. Spain reserved the import of goods into her colonies for Spanish ships and Spanish merchants. But the colonists needed more than they could supply, and shortages and heavy taxation caused high prices, encouraging an expensive illegal trade with foreign vessels. Port Jackson was described by some 19th century historians as a base for such smuggling. Britain had no great friendship with Spain at that time, so British authorities were unconcerned. Okay. Bass still had much of the general cargo he had brought to Sydney in 1801, and he may well have been tempted to take some to Chile. Two of his last letters have hints at a venture which he could not name, but in any case he set off in 1803 with a diplomatic letter from Governor King attesting his bona fides and that his sole purpose if he were on the west coast of South America would be procuring provisions. Let's see. As many months passed with no word of his arrival, Governor King and Bass's friends in Sydney were forced to accept that he had met some misfortune. Misfortune. In England in January of 1806, Bass was listed by the Admiralty as lost at sea, and later that year Elizabeth was granted an annuity from the widow's fund backdated to when Bass's half pay had ended in June 1803. Bass had made the usual contributions to the fund from his salary. Okay, let's see. Speculations on Bass's fate. A good deal of speculation has taken place about Bass's fate. One story attributed to William Campbell of the brig Harrington has it that Bass was captured by the Spanish in Chile and sent to the silver mines. The Harrington was engaged in smuggling and returns to Sydney some 3 months after Bass's departure. However, this story dated from 1811 in a report by William Fitzmaurice. There are good records of Campbell in 1803 and then in 1805 when he captured a Spanish ship. But Bass is not mentioned at those times. 3 months also seems a little short for Bass to reach Chile and then the Harrington to get back to Sydney. Another factor against the South American story is that all British prisoners held by the Spanish in Chile and Peru were freed in 1808 and returned to Europe. If the crew of the Venus had indeed been captured, then none of the 25 survived. Adventurer Jorgen Jorgensen. I don't know how they came up with that name, but anyway, wrote about Bass in his 1835 autobiography, claiming Bass had attempted forced trade at gunpoint in Chile and was captured when he let his guard down. Jorgensen probably met Bass, but this account is almost certainly an invention. Jorgensen's writing, through entertaining, was often far from factual. Now, that's kind of like how I feel about the guy I read about the other night. About Warson. He had a lot of stories that he read, a lot of short stories. But at the same time, I would think that a good writer also gets most of their stories and facts from true events. So, in his case, there may have been an incident where something like that did happen, and he wrote about it and probably changed the name of the person to protect him or whatever the case may be, just so he could be able to write a story without causing a fraudulent act on someone's name. But, that's just an educated guess. Okay. A search of Spanish archives in 1903 by scholar Pascual de Gallegos. Okay. And a search for Peruvian archives in 2003 by historian Jorge Ortiz Sotelo found no mention of Bass. His ultimate fate remains a mystery. Okay, that is just as informative as anything else when it comes to people that mysteriously vanish. But, all in all, still it's a story, and it's in the Wikipedia archives. Now, like I said, they got a lot of stories that date all the way back to the 1800s, some even before the 1800s. Okay, some goes back as far as like the 1500s or the 1600s. But I will get into those as I go along with each video. Okay, so that's how I'm going to do. I'm going to do past and present when it comes to my videos. And now, my good friends and viewers, on to the present. This story right here. Oh, wait, that's Patrick Welsh. I don't want to read that. Okay, this story right here. Joshua Bender, and here's his photo. Right here. Joshua Bender. Okay. Now, Joshua Bender went missing on 05/12/1998 at 8:30 p.m. in New York, New York. He was 19 years old when he disappeared. When I did the background work on this incident, I immediately was struck by the similarity between Joshua's background and Patrick McNeil's case. Both men volunteered to work for their local ambulance corporations. This isn't a common practice for young men that are listed in the book, and it's even more of a coincidence because both men went missing in New York, and they vanished in a close time frame. In my past books, I've written about the abnormal amount of people in the medical professions who have vanished, and add another. Joshua was a young man with a strong religious connection. From the time he was a young boy, he was committed to his Jewish faith, and spent a large amount of his life learning from the church and traveling to refine his language and religious teachings. He graduated from the Torah Academy in Teaneck, New Jersey. I got some family that lives in Teaneck, New Jersey. All right. Let's see where he was the editor-in-chief of the school's newspaper. He enrolled and was accepted to attend Yeshiva University in New York. He also got into the Cy Sims School of Business. Cy Sims or CSIM? Cy Sims. Okay, he continually volunteered through his religious applications. Applications by driving minivans, teaching and assisting where needed. He also drove for the Fairlawn Ambulance Corporation. He would regularly wake up in the middle of the night to answer a call to assist others. In May 1998, Joshua was a sophomore majoring in business at Yeshiva. On May 12th at 8:30 p.m., he told roommates in his dormitory that he was leaving to meet two other friends so they could all study for finals in 2 days. He walked out of the door, and that was the last time anyone saw the student alive. Joshua was reported as a missing person soon after he was last seen. And his parents responded from their home in Fairlawn, New Jersey. Start keeping notes on the number of students in this book who disappeared after leaving their dormitory. This is what he quoted in parentheses. Joshua's parents were deeply involved in the search for their son from the very beginning. They worked with police and campus officials, distributing flyers and searching every park in the vicinity of the campus. Detectives stated from the beginning that they didn't see anything in Joshua's background indicating he was involved with a wrong type of people, and they found no evidence of foul play. A May 20th, 1998 article in the New York Times had this statement: It seems as though he has vanished into thin air. His mother, Giddy Bender, said at a news conference. Her voice nodded with emotion. Parents, students, and volunteers pushed on with their searches. On May 25th, 1998, this article appeared in the New York Times. The parents of the student, Joshua Bender, 19, were searching for him in Fort Tryon Park in Upper Manhattan with hundreds of volunteers yesterday when words came that their son's body had been recovered a few hours earlier. He was discovered in the waters of 138th Street just after 5:50 a.m. Face down in blue jeans, button-down plaid shirt and shoes. He had been wearing when he vanished. Okay, now see, at one point you got a body where it was face up, and now this one is face down, so it kind of flip flops apparently, just not as much. Okay, let's see. Make sure I didn't lose my place here. Okay, here we go. He vanished. Okay, along with his wallet and credit cards, police said. The police stated that there were no injuries to the body, and it appeared that no foul play was involved. The parents asked the coroner's office not to do an autopsy for religious reasons. The coroner's office complied. I realized the religious preferences of people should be listened to and granted in most instances. In hindsight, I do wish that an autopsy had been done along with toxicology testing. We don't know how long Joshua had been in the river and what he had in his system. Joshua was scheduled to start an internship position at Prudential Securities just after his finals. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that something unusual happened to this young man. When you think about a student that was walking the tightrope of an ethical and devoted life, then think of Josh. Joshua's mom made a perfect statement in this June 7th, 1998 article in the New York Daily News. I can't tell you my son was murdered. I can't tell you my son was murdered, Susan Bender said. Wait a minute. At first they said her name was Giddy Bender. I said, hold on. Yeah, his mother, Giddy. Maybe that was her middle name, I guess. Her name's probably Susan Giddy Bender, maybe. Or Giddy, I don't know, but it said Giddy Bender. So I don't know, maybe that was a typo or some sort. Maybe he thought her name was Giddy, or maybe her middle name was Giddy, I don't know. But down here it says her name is Susan. So I don't know how they got there. Okay, there was no question in my mind there is no question in my mind or my friends' minds the difference between his case and the others. He didn't frequent bars, and the other young men were drinking. But so what? Eloquently put, Mrs. Bender. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a really crazy one right there. I'm at the 22 mark, so I guess I can get another one in. This one is about Patrick Welsh. But first, I just want to say that, yeah, this is a crazy one because he didn't drink. You know, he was very religious, you know, but he got up to meet up with some friends to study, and somewhere between point A and point B, he disappears. Okay, but he didn't make it to his present location, his appointed location. Now, in this case, he disappears and ends up, you know, in a body of water. You know, they searched for, I don't know how many days. Let me see. Oh, excuse me. Okay, on May 12th at 8:30 p.m. Okay, yes. Let's see. Yeah, because it doesn't list how many days they searched. They just said they searched for him a lot. It just didn't say exactly. It didn't give any actual dates or how long. It just said that his body was found at 5:30 a.m. one morning in the water. It didn't even mention the name of the body of water that he was in. But in this one, like I said, he was in blue jeans, he was face down, and he was at a button-down plaid shirt and shoes. So it did a strange one because all you know is that he left his dormitory to meet up with some other friends to study, and then bam, he disappears on his way there and ends up in a body of water days or weeks later with no cause of death on the body. No ligature marks, no burn marks, no no bruising from like maybe punches or anything, nothing. But then the family was religious and they didn't want them to do an autopsy report or a toxicology report. So I guess they'll never find out unless they do it anyway without their consent later on down the road. and find out what happened to him, but only if they have the parents' consent to dig up the body to find out what happened. And by them being religious, I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway, okay, on to Patrick Walsh. Welsh. I'm sorry. Now, when I hear that, I keep thinking of Patrick Welsh from this movie that Charlie Sheen was in back in 1984 called The Wraith. There was a real crazy guy named Patrick Welsh, and his name is Patrick Welsh. You know, just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay. Patrick Welsh went missing on 04/15/05 in New York, New York. Yeah, that's my town. Born and raised, baby. Well, in Brooklyn. The Brooklyn part of New York. But anyway, he was 22 years old when he disappeared. Patrick Welsh was a professional writing student at York College in Pennsylvania. He was within one semester of graduating when, on April 15, 2005, his roommate Adam Bumgardner. Wait a minute. Bumgardner. You know what? There was a guy that I read about in my other book, the Western U.S. book. That person's name was Bumgarten, and this guy's name is Bumgardner. So it's kind of weird. Okay, but anyway, okay, let's see. Let me go back. Okay, he was within one semester of graduating when, on April 15th, 2005, his roommate Adam Bumgarner and Adam's mother dropped Patrick at the Amtrak station in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, for a scheduled trip to Pennsylvania Station for a 4:35 p.m. arrival. He had told Adam that he was traveling to New York to visit friends at Columbia University. Police researched Patrick's phone logs and found that he did make a call that first night at 9:30 p.m. to a friend. There was nothing unusual about the call. The call was placed in Midtown. Patrick may have traveled to New York to see the band Widespread Panic, who was playing at Radio City Music Hall. There was another article stating that he was a fan of Rat Dog, and police were asking other fans if anyone had seen him. This was never confirmed, but the timeline and dates they were playing would work. There was a development in the case when the police found Patrick's cell phone. A May 6, 2005 article in the New York Times stated, cell phone records also indicate that someone, not Patrick, used Patrick's cell phone on April 18th, last Tuesday, after the Welsh brothers, Patrick's father and uncle, left Manhattan. The New York police detained and questions John Dennis Coppinger. Coppinger. The homeless man. Okay, now see, this is another thing. This is like what happened with Bo Solomon. Bo Solomon was a young foreign exchange student. I think he was like 19, maybe 20 years old, and he met up with a homeless person the evidence showed that somebody had his card and was spending, like using his card all across Italy, for whatever the reason. They think that he might have gotten a hold of his card and started spending it on, charging things, up to the hilt, but, like I said, that story right there with him, I'm still up in the air with that, as far as the homeless man being, the person that killed him, because every single portion of the evidence, going all the way back to when he was at a pub before he disappeared, everything that happened to him matched up with everything that David Paulides talked about in his books. But at the same time, they claimed that the homeless man was the murderer. I think they just got that from the scuffle he had with another person about a year before, when they got into a scuffle. They got into a fight. But like I said, that's anybody's guess. But anyway, Mr. Coppinger told police that he found a cell phone in the vacant lot. The police searched the lot beneath an underpass at Undercliff Avenue and Bisco Bell Place. In the Mount Eden section, they found nothing. Mr. Carpenter had been ruled out as a suspect and was arrested on an unrelated matter at a 1997 assault charge, the Maryland State Police said. Okay. There was very little information about Patrick's location until June 2nd, 2005. A body was located at 12:50 p.m. floating in the Hudson River in the 79th Street Basin on New York's Upper West Side in Manhattan. The body was identified within several days through dental records as Patrick. The coroner's office did not make a statement about the cause of death for months. An April 22, 2006 article in the Sunday News Daily Record had this information. Early this month, Ellen Borokov, spokeswoman for the New York City office of the Chief Medical Examiner, said Welsh's cause and manner of death have not been determined because of lack of evidence, both from the body and witnesses. This is a very long statement that means they could not determine what killed Patrick. Patrick's body was located approximately 3 miles downstream in the Hudson River from where his phone was found. The phone was located inland about 3,000 feet from the Hudson. Nobody had any idea what Patrick would have been doing in this area of New York. It should be noted that stolen cell phones have high value in New York. Thieves sell them to people who make long distance calls to relatives in other countries and use them to propagate scams. It would seem that if Patrick was killed, the coroner's office could have determined this. But if he was, the cell phone would be sold to another criminal in New York and not simply thrown into a vacant lot. Very true. Very, very true. Okay. Start paying attention to the number of times bodies are found separated from phones. I will agree that there are instances where people are found with their phones, but the device is not functioning. But the device is not functioning. There are many unusual aspects to these stories. The inability to determine the cause of death is another cornerstone. After reading dozens of instances from college-age men partying and ending up in rivers, you may get hardened to the topic. Remember, it's not normal to approach any river at night to take a swim. The vast majority of these individuals were highly intelligent, athletic, healthy, and young. If anyone could have survived a river entry, they could. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree because they're young, they're strapping, so good and well that they'd be able to survive all that. So it's anybody's guess what really happened to Patrick, but all I know is that he was supposed to have been going from point A to point B, and somehow didn't make it and ended up in the Hudson River in the process. So, like I said, this is anybody guess what could have happened to that young man. But yeah, very, very weird. And like I said, there's very little information on him. It's just that you leave one place at a certain time, and then boom, next thing you know, bam, you end up in the water somewhere. So like I said, these entities do know a lot about the human race. They know a lot about us. They know how we think. So they know how to get around how we think with very weird circumstantial causes of death that have no meaning to it at all. Now I want to go back to my last video about Kenny Veach, and I was mentioning something dealing with the cave and the reason why those energies was flowing from it, causing his body to vibrate. Now there is a big story on on the net about crystal caves, and crystal caves tend to harness a lot of energy, especially in certain areas of the cave. Now there is one cave that I heard about where there was these really tall looking elongated crystals that are embedded deep inside of this one cave, and it's like so hot down there, it's unbearable. And people who have discovered that cave couldn't stand it anymore, because apparently they were getting closer to the Earth's core, or the heat, like, well, I won't say to the Earth's core, but this cave was like, it went very deep, and I'm pretty sure that there may have been a lava tube somewhere nearby in that area of the inside of the cave, or the heat from the core was billowing up through the mantle inside that cave. But there are images of these crystal caves. Just give me 1 second. And it has like some very cool images of these crystal caves. Okay, let's see. Now this is one photo right here of someone inside the cave. Let's see. It's very bright, so it's gonna be probably hard to see. Yeah, that picture is probably gonna be kind of hard to see. Oh, here we go. This is what one of the crystal caves look like. Okay, and there's other ones too. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. And this is another one right here. This right here, you can see some people right there in these little orange suits. And look at how big those crystals are, And crystals have been known to harness energy. They use that to just like how they use like diamonds in fantasy movies about, that's how they can harness a laser beam by using a special type of diamond, or they can use the prisms from the diamond to, they use crystals for a lot of reasons. They use crystals on microchips, and they harness energy, like electrical energy. So I'm thinking that maybe, just maybe, the reason why Kenny Veach was feeling those energies and those vibrations from the cave, because there may have been some very large, like tower-sized crystals inside that cave, and they were harnessing energy from the earth itself and causing the cave itself to be bombarded with this energy, and therefore it emanated out of the M-shaped opening of that cave, causing him to feel that weirdness. And I guess it promoted a sense of fear because he didn't know what that was. I don't know, but that's just my personal theory on that. I forgot to mention it in the video, because I did say I was going to say something about why I believe he was feeling that energy and those vibrations. So there you have it. That's my theory on that. But that is my time on this story, or these stories. I will be coming back with more. I might make another video shortly after this one, just to kind of catch up on things that, from yesterday when I should have made one. So as always, stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled to my screen, and keep your ears open to my notifications. Okay, because you're gonna hear that little ping. So all you gotta do is hit that bell right there, like and subscribe if you like this video, and I will see you guys later. Aloha, mahalo, and a hui hou.